Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. Here we discuss your favorite movies of all time, as well as the ones that got away. We look at classic and iconic films from two perspectives, that of the die-hard fan and that of the uncultured who's never seen it before.
Mm.
Until now.
Ah,
We're your hosts, Joe and Justin, here to act as your guides, playing part as both the fellow enthusiast and the ignorant and uncultured. Today we'll be drinking absinthe with the children of the revolution while trying not to die of tuberculosis. It's 2001's Moulin Rouge.
how does one try to not die from tuberculosis?
I don't know. So I was thinking about this while watching the film this time around. Obviously, this is the one that I've seen several times.
Yeah.
You have never seen. I probably should have looked this up before this episode because this is a pretty key plot point. I don't know how tuberculosis works.
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
like viral? It's not an STD, right?
no, it's something, it's like in the blood, in the
Clearly,
lungs.
your
It's
lungs
gunk. It's
are not
gunk in the
great.
lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the lung blood coughs kind of thing. You have to have a white hanky and you
Hmm.
have to cough into it and you have to like slowly pull away and like, oh, the blood. It's
It's very much the Chekhov's gun of like death in movies. Like if someone's coughing up blood into a white hanky,
You can just count them out.
say your goodbyes now. Get
Yeah.
right with your God.
Yeah. Amazing. But yeah, so this was a unique one. So this is
So many things unique about this episode.
so many things, right? So this is part of our musical themed month of March, and this was Joe's movie, and we did something a little bit different for this one, didn't we, Joe?
Yeah, so Justin, so we kind of tend to schedule these episodes ahead of time so we know like what episodes are coming up, what movies we need to watch. And Justin pointed out that the Moulin Rouge was actually having a showing at the Plaza Theatre here in Atlanta uh, this month of February. So we are in February right now. Can you believe it's like we're time traveling?
Right. Yes, we are coming to you in March, but here we are back in February. If some when where should we place our bets, or how does it work? Is it the other way around? Do we tell people when to place their bets on the Super Bowl game?
The math is very confusing. Try to keep up, listeners.
Yeah,
But
we're
I
not
think
there.
it's like the Super Bowl game is tomorrow, right?
I think so. It is Sunday the 12th.
I
So
don't know
yeah,
who's playing.
I don't either. I don't even give a shit, dude.
Okay.
But all I give a shit about is this movie right now that we're talking about. So yeah, so we went to the actual movie theater to watch this in person. This was put on by like a local Atlanta.
It's
Uh,
put on by Wussy Magazine.
yeah,
They do shows like this at the Plaza.
yeah. So they do all kinds of things. I've been to several Wussy events at the Plaza. I saw Purple Rain. I
Hmm.
saw Little Shop of Horrors there. I saw a couple things there, and they go all out. There was a costume contest. There was some lip syncing and some drag performance. It was amazing for someone who had never experienced this movie in any capacity.
The costume element was pretty interesting leading up to this because it was kind of that thing where like you texted me a couple days beforehand that you were going to go in costume, and so I was like, well, fuck, now I have to figure out a costume. And so immediately started googling where to find top hats in Atlanta. So Justin, you having never seen Moulin Rouge and not really knowing much about the story, you kind of approached it from a circus direction, I noticed. So, which is kind of close. It's a little hard to describe because it's kind of burlesque, but I think the official genre here is like can dancing,
Yeah.
bohemian a little bit.
Yeah, it's I found out, while watching the movie, it's like, oh, it takes place in like a during like a bohemian type of
Revelry.
revolution.
Yeah,
Yeah, in like
a rhapsody, if you will.
yes, a definite bohemian rhapsody of sorts. This is La Vie Boheme, wrapped up in a bubble, real nice.
Hmm.
So like my wife Ryan had seen this movie before. She loves the soundtrack. She was actually super jealous that we got to go watch it in person, as opposed to watching it at home like we normally do and getting to share notes and stuff. But she loved that, like, that was my first exposure to it, that we got to go see it live and around, surrounded by people who loved the movie just as much as you did, and
Right.
her too.
So
But
we come to the theater in costume. There's a costume contest that happens before the show, put on by a couple drag queens. It was pretty great. You almost stepped up, and it's probably pretty good that you didn't, because they were asking them specific questions about the movie, and you would have been kind of lost a little bit.
well, you know what? Looking back historically, like I am regretting not going up because I would have
You
had.
could have done it.
I think I could have done it. They weren't asking like specific questions, but I think my angle that like, hey, I'm dressed up in this insane getup and I have this really cool top hat and I've never seen the movie before, but I came here
You could
because
have gotten, it was like a clap based
yeah.
contest, so you
Hmm.
could have gotten a lot of applause for being like the one person who's never seen the movie in the lineup. That could have been your angle. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That could have been, but I was a little too shy, but that's all right. But yeah, so I had no idea what this was. So I was like, I want to dress up, but I don't know like what to do. My only touch point for this movie is the Lady Marmalade, Christina Aguilera music video from around the same time. And I was like, all right, so it's like sexy stripper burlesque kind of thing, but like, how do you translate that to like a male outfit? And I landed on like in Pinterest or something, found um, it was like circus goth kind of thing. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
that's totally up my alley. I had the perfect thing to go with it, like a weird shirt and a vest, and Ryan did my makeup real
Your
nice.
the eyeliner and eyebrows effect looks really great.
It
We
was,
have pictures of all this on the gram if anyone's interested.
yeah, yeah. You get to see how damn good your boys looked in person. But yeah, this was a really fun, unique experience to just take in this insane drug fueled cacophony of fever dream visuals and over the top performances. And I
It
loved every second of it.
It felt very right. We were encouraged as an audience to kind of shout out, sing along, dance in the rows, and stuff. And that level of maximalism in the theater itself very much reflected what was happening on screen. If there
And
was one movie to do that too, it was Moulin
it
Rouge.
was this one. And I really appreciated that because, like, the community aspect of it really amped it up. Even though, we'll take a little tangent and talk about the technical aspects of the movie theater.
Hmm.
The sound balance wasn't quite great, so I missed a lot of dialogue.
Oh,
But
I kept on thinking that as I was sitting next to you. I was like, oh, there's so many plot points happening right now, and you cannot hear it over the music.
but I was able to kind of glean what's going on, and that's just good storytelling. That's just good visual storytelling. Like I could kind of tell what's happening and what they're talking about, and I almost wanted to go back and rewatch it at home with the
Hmm.
subtitles on and stuff, but I didn't want to sully the experience that we shared that
This
a week ago, whatever. So like,
This movie does very well also as like a YouTube clip rewatch. You can watch individual segments. Things are broken down. Obviously, it's a musical, right? We're talking about musicals because it is the month of March 2023 right now.
yes, yes.
This is our musical month. This is Joe's pick, Moulin Rouge, March. So it's pretty easy to break this movie down into kind of its musical segments. Find those online, but there's also like a pretty intricate amount of plot happening in between. This movie was also a lot longer than I remembered it being. I thought it was going to be like a tight hour 40. It's like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it was a big production kind of
Oh
a
yeah.
thing, and there's a lot to move through, storytelling wise. So like,
Hmm.
it didn't feel long to me, just because they keep hitting you over the head with big set pieces, big musical numbers, big surprises, and things like
Hmm.
that. So it kept my attention, and not like wanting to look at the clock or anything like that. So I had a blast with this. So I'm
Hmm.
really glad that I had never seen it before and that, we got to experience this in a very unique way.
Yeah, yeah. There's little it would pay to go back and rewatch. There's a bunch of little like comedic throwaway lines that are in there that we maybe couldn't hear as well that are pretty great.
Hmm.
But it's interesting that this is the first way you experience this movie by like focusing more on just like the big musical numbers and just the overall vibe of it rather than the individual plot elements, because that's kind of how I experienced this movie growing up. Like the first time I watched this movie was like a mainstay musical in my house. We loved it. We watched it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I never really got what the story was for like a while. I wasn't really paying attention to that bit just because I was so blown away by the fact that they could do this in a musical.
Yeah.
So this is a very specific type of musical called a jukebox musical. That's what
Oh.
it's called when you have like popular pre-written songs as part of your musical.
Okay.
So you have musicals like Mamma Mia
Mm-hmm.
that are like specifically one band's songs. A lot of musicals like that.
Yeah.
And then this one is obviously a mashup of several different artists. So like
Yeah.
that novelty as a kid to me was incredible. I was
And
like, this is illegal. How are they doing this right now?
I totally get that. So like the again, like the only touch point I had was Lady Marmalade. Like maybe that shows up in the movie, maybe not. Maybe it was just like kind of like a seal kiss from a rose kind of thing. Like it doesn't take place in the movie or anything like
Hmm.
that. So, you get through like the opening bits and there's like the overture opening thing. And I know we're kind of going out of order than what we normally do, but this
We're
is
gonna
fine.
get into it. We'll get into
This
it.
is fine. So like, which I didn't know till after the fact, like it opens with John Leguizamo kind of like in his clown outfit, kind of singing up to the moon, and
Hmm.
it's doing the big pan stuff, and he's singing, the Nature Boy song that I found out later. Um, on the soundtrack, it's fucking David Bowie
Hmm.
singing, and that's like a Nat King Cole song. It's like a jazz standard, and I was like, this fucking rules. But I had no idea what that was until later. So I
So
was like,
I'm
okay, so this is like an overture, unique song,
mhm.
and then, a couple plot points away. Um, once we get to the point where you start to hear the Lady Marmalade song and then it smashes into Smells Like Teen Spirit. And
Oh,
that's when I was like, oh, that's what this kind of movie is.
oh yeah.
All right, I'm
I'm so
in.
glad you got to experience it like this then.
I am in. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I'm sitting up a little bit more. I'm getting more comfortable in my seat. I was already there for
Sing
the ride.
along, even if you haven't seen the movie, it's pretty great.
Yeah, so that was a big like, oh shit, that's what this movie is? That's cool. Okay.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And there's definite examples of movies that have followed this movie, kind of using more modern songs within historical settings, and a lot of those movies are Baz Luhrmann movies. So this is a Baz Luhrmann movie. He's a director from Australia. He tends to direct more like incredibly flashy, incredibly maximalist films like this. So he's done stuff like Moulin Rouge. He did The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. He did Australia again with Nicole Kidman, and then the latest movie he did actually came out this year was Elvis. And so in a
Elvis.
lot of these movies, you get that same element of like using modern music and modern dialogue in certain cases to
Hmm.
put the viewer into this historical setting, but give them the vibe of what these characters may have been feeling at the time.
Yeah,
Like,
and I really appreciate that. That's really unique and cool. And we were talking about this at dinner just beforehand that like this is Baz Luhrmann joint. The only other thing that I had seen from him is one that you haven't seen, and now
mhm,
it is on our list for a upcoming episode at some point. But it
mhm,
is the Romeo and Juliet
haven't seen
from
it.
'96 with Leo and Claire Danes, and that's the one that I remember watching in 1996, being blown away by like what are all these visible visuals that like this feels illegal to make a movie like this, like
Mhm.
the same kind of way that you were feeling about it. So that's really neat.
It's pretty wacky. And Leo obviously at the time auditioned for the role of Christian in this movie, but it went to Ewan McGregor, who can sing, baby.
Dude, I have a note that Ewan McGregor put his whole Obi-Wan Kabussy all up in that thing. He is going for it. And
This
one of the
is
my most favorite things that he does throughout the whole thing, whenever he's singing, he's like smile singing.
oh my god, you can't help but look at his mouth. He's got the craziest smile happening. And it's like so infectious and
Mm.
stuff, and
Hmm.
you can literally see how his voice is going through his mouth and producing sounds.
Hmm. So much fun.
This is the Ewan McGregor performance I think of before anything else when I think of Ewan McGregor. So like even like Star Wars, even some of his more recent stuff, I always come back to Moulin Rouge with him.
I recognized him from, and I'd never seen it. I recognized him from, I think Train Spotting was one of
Hmm.
his earliest movies. And like, I recognized that actor, of sorts. So when he showed up in um, Phantom Menace, I was like, okay, it's that guy. And you said this movie is around the time between episodes 1 and 2.
I actually have a list of little film facts at the bottom of my notes. So this is between episode 1 and 2. They actually had to clear off the sound stages really quick at the end of filming this movie in like 2000 because Attack of the Clones was coming in to film. So Ewan just went from like one to the next on that in that same location. What all these like interior shots and stuff.
Bananas. That's insane.
He did not spend a lot on travel that year.
No, he didn't. Good for him.
Um,
Good for him.
so yeah, like we mentioned, this is a Baz Luhrmann film. You've seen Romeo and Juliet, Romeo plus Juliet,
Right.
and then we both just saw Moulin Rouge. This is actually Moulin Rouge is the third in what's known as his Red Curtain trilogy. So you notice
Cool.
at like the beginning of um, Moulin Rouge, there's that like theatrical element where the curtain goes aside, and it's the 20th Century Fox logo.
Hmm.
It's that stylistic choice that kind of pervades a lot of his movies. But the first in that trilogy, so Romeo plus Juliet is the second, Moulin Rouge is the third. The first is a movie called Strictly Ballroom
Hmm.
that I told you about for a second. I don't think you've seen that one.
I know. I
We
haven't.
may have to cover that as like another little Baz Luhrmann miniseries follow up because that
Ooh,
movie
yeah.
is so fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll go back and we'll watch Romeo plus Juliet, and
mhm.
then we'll round out the trilogy. And we're going in backwards order.
We'll
So
do a backwards Red Curtain trilogy.
I love it. I
It's
love
so
it. It's
great.
great. Yeah.
Because Strictly Ballroom is a mockumentary about ballroom dancing in Australia in the 90s. It's much more Best in Show, another
Yeah.
movie that we've covered than anything else.
Hmm.
It's hilarious, and it has great dancing and again great music in it.
That's so cool. Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Um,
Listeners, hold us accountable for when we
Hold us
do that.
accountable, please. Please answer our polls whenever we post them on Instagram.
Yep.
We love feedback wherever we can get it.
Send us DMs, do all the things. Send us emails, a
Yes,
fax if you want.
we do have an email out there that I don't know how to check.
I don't either, but
Okay. I don't know how we set that up. Um,
yeah. So where are we going to next, Joe? Where are we going to
my
talk about
my
next?
so if we're talking about just like little baby Joe's connection to this movie, this is obviously a pretty seminal movie musical for me growing up. It was my first touch point with Baz Luhrmann, and I've watched and enjoyed a lot of his movies since. I would say, like in the vein of kind of like jukebox musical comedy drama style. There's actually another movie from around this time that was also a mainstay in my household that isn't necessarily what you would think. Have you
Okay.
seen A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger?
I've seen parts of it.
Okay, so it's very similar in that it is obviously set in like
Hmm.
medieval times. um, and
The entertainment
it's
place
set
in
in
a
a
mall.
restaurant that has a jousting tournament in the middle of it.
Yep.
But it uses modern music and even like the characters themselves are even like singing modern music in certain cases to kind of put you into the viewpoint of what it was like to like watch jousting in the
Yeah.
middle of times. It may have been the same as like watching a football game, watching a wrestling match or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how these characters are taking it.
The only thing I really remember from that movie, just like the only touch points, because like I haven't seen it. I know that Paul Bettany is in it,
Hmm.
and Heath Ledger, just going ham. And the only scene I can really remember is lifted from somewhere. I don't remember, but it's the jousting scene. But there's like "We Will Rock You" in the background
Oh
or
yeah,
something like that.
oh yeah, a lot
And
of
I
great.
remember like thinking about that. And I was like, that's really weird. Like that, it's like modern music, and people are interacting in a way with the music, and it's taking place in this weird, old time frame of human history. Whereas like in this movie, it makes sense because it's, even though it is like a time period piece, it's so elevated to the
Hmm.
absurd and
And
like
like the Moulin Rouge
spectacular.
is
Like,
a theater in certain cases, so like they're literally doing performances.
yeah, so like it didn't, well, I'm not saying it bothers me that like, A Knight's Tale does that. I'm sure if I go back and watch it, I'll get into it and it would make sense. But
Oh,
like,
Knight's Tale's great.
just like a pure like read 10,000 foot view, like in the Moulin Rouge world, it fits a little bit more because it is so over the top and performancy, that kind of thing. Whereas like it, to me, like it would be like watching Game of Thrones, but then you hear, Lil Jon and Usher come on. Like it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit the vibe. It might like in theory fit the vibe, but
All I can say is that it works. You got to revisit it.
okay, all right. Um, cool. So before we go any further, do we want to do the plot first while it's still kind of fresh in my mind, or do we want to do the trailer?
Hang on, hang on. Let me give you some film stats
Okay,
real
give me
quick.
those. Give me those. Give me
Let's
those.
jump into the trailer, and then I will. Well, you will do the monumental plot description in under 60 seconds. Good luck.
I know.
So, Moulin Rouge, directed by Baz Luhrmann, stars Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman, Jim Broadbent, John Leguizamo, and Richard Roxburgh is the Duke. So funny in this movie and so
Mm-hmm.
creepy.
Delightful.
Um, Released in May of 2001, made 179 million worldwide against a budget of only 50 million,
Wow.
which
Okay.
you'd think it'd be bigger, but there's like so much green screen in this movie, especially during like the musical moments.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they like saved money on just effects there.
Probably.
Inspired by the opera La Boheme, as
Oh.
well as Indian Bollywood film style and the Greek tragedy Orpheus and Eurydice, which you can definitely see because it's very much this tale of this kind of musical prodigy going into this seedy underworld and meeting a girl, and she kind of gets trapped, and he's trying to bring her out of it, and
Yeah.
ultimately it ends in tragedy. This is
Of course.
ultimately a tragic movie.
It really is. It definitely ends on a bummer note, for
It
sure.
is bookended by darkness, and
Uh-huh.
then we travel back to 1899, and it's all great. And then we go forward, and it's not so great.
It's not so great.
Um, and like we mentioned, the third in his trilogy after Strictly Ballroom and Romeo and Juliet.
So cool.
Why don't we queue up this trailer?
Okay.
Because there's a few of them, and I'm wondering if this is the one I've seen.
Well, we'll see. Here we go. Whoop, whoop.
He entered a world where fantasy is real, where he could be anything he wanted, and where he would discover the most dangerous temptation of all.
Come and get me, boys. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. I believe you were expecting me.
Yes. Silly. Think you would fall in love with someone like me.
I can't fall in love with anyone and make men believe what they want to believe.
Never knew I could feel like this. I believe in truth, freedom, and above all things, love. Like I've never seen the sky.
You're gonna be bad for business. I can tell.
I am willing to provide the financial resources to make you a star.
You don't have to wear that dress tonight.
I require a contract that binds Satine to me exclusively.
He could destroy everything.
I don't care. We have each other.
Make Christian believe you don't love him.
He'll fight for me.
Hurt him to save him.
Whatever happens, no matter how bad things get, we love one another.
Kill the boy.
This story is about love.
and it goes on like that. But oh man, that's
Okay, it's 2000 and that trailer comes out. What are we thinking? They're doing like a club remix of the "Come What May" song. Uh,
and okay. So now that I've seen the movie, I do not dig that trailer. That paints
I
the
don't.
wrong picture.
I think that just goes to show that a movie like this is probably very hard to make a trailer for.
Yeah, like I get it. So like,
Hmm.
okay, so 2001. I'm 15, going on 16,
Okay,
maybe 15 at this point, or maybe maybe even 14. I have no idea how math works.
yeah,
Um,
we've proven that this episode. Yeah.
so if I'd seen that trailer in particular, I'd be like, I don't want to watch that movie. It looks too dramatic and too much Fat Boy Slim going on. I don't want to watch that.
It looks like a crime comedy film or something like that. I don't know.
And and maybe it was just the production of being in a theater with enthusiasts and drag queens and people all dressed up and stuff that made it feel way more fun
Hmm.
than that fucking trailer. That trailer ruined it.
Yeah, watching this in a theater with that crowd felt very much like we were in an actual theater watching things happen on a stage,
Yeah.
with things that we could like react to.
Yeah.
Wild crowd, people throwing out one-liners, people clapping, people singing along.
Hmm.
Pretty great.
It was great. Yeah. Loved it. But yeah, so 2001, I didn't see this movie because I wasn't super into musicals at the time. I got
Mhm.
into musicals later in life. My first one being my future episode, which is going to come out before this one.
Oh, I have a whole question for you at the end of this episode about how we want to tease things that we will get to.
Yeah, so like that was my first exposure to a musical, my episode, which I won't spoil for you. It doesn't
Well, no,
fucking matter because it's
we
coming
can
out
talk
before.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
come
yeah.
out after. We can talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Little Shop of Horrors was one that I'd seen like probably the next year, like
Mhm.
during high school. Um, I'd always thought musicals were just kind of just boring. I wasn't into it. Um, so like, but that was my first exposure to one. So that is my episode. That is my pick, which I love so much because I have so many connections to it and I'd seen it multiple times. And yeah, so around 2001, when this trailer comes out, this movie comes out, yeah, I'm not interested at all to see this. Like my only other touch point for Nicole Kidman was when she was in Batman Forever
We haven't
with
really
Val
talked
Kilmer.
about Nicole as much, but this is kind of her breakout in terms of like large award prestige. Like
Yeah.
she'd been nominated for a lot of stuff. This is kind of, I don't know if this is her coming off of the Tom Cruise marriage, and so she's kind of like freeing herself up in that
Yeah.
way.
Probably.
But I think before she was very much seen as just Tom Cruise's wife, and now
Mhm.
she's kind of coming into her own as an actress. Even though she was obviously in a bunch of great stuff in the '90s, like you're saying, like Batman. Was it Forever? Batman Forever.
Batman Forever. Yeah, that's the one with Val Kilmer. And then
Doctor
Batman and Robin.
Chase Meridian.
Yes, Dr. Chase Meridian. Yes. And I can never remember if that's her first or last name, if it's reversed. But yeah, it was that one. And then like Eyes Wide Shut, again with Tom Cruise. But like it was always paired, like you said. She was Tom Cruise's wife. Tom Cruise's enormously tall wife to his meager 5'3".
I think one of my favorite podcasts is called This Had Oscar Buzz. They were talking about Nicole Kidman at one point, and they just mentioned this throwaway line about how Chase Meridian sounds like a credit card name.
Yes.
Which I always think of with that movie. So good. But yeah, I think a lot of people in the 90s had this view of Nicole Kidman as maybe only getting roles because she was Tom Cruise's wife.
Yeah.
And this is where she really starts to break out with stuff like Moulin Rouge. She gets her first Oscar nomination. This is 2 years before her Oscar win for The Hours. So she's really coming into her own. And now she's like one of our biggest and best prestige actresses, obviously.
Damn right.
And this is also like the ultimate, dang, that actor or actress knows how to sing a little bit movie,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
When did Ewan McGregor sing before this? When did Nicole Kidman sing too much before this?
Did they actually provide their voices to each track?
I believe so. You can kind of tell. I mean, it's definitely like voice over when they're
Oh yeah,
singing in the
performing. Yeah,
movie, but it's them. Yeah.
that's cool. Okay, I appreciate that. But yeah, like who knew that either of them could belt like
Yeah.
they do?
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this? Okay. I want to get back into your history with musicals real quick. Okay,
Yeah.
so we will talk about Little Shop of Horrors, which is in the future, but technically in the past because it's late March right now. So that movie itself is based off of a Broadway musical, or the other way around, or when did the movie come out?
I can give you all of these details during that episode that takes place in the future and the past at the same time. And I know that they are, symbiotic. One
Mhm.
of them is a stage play, and then but I can't remember which one precedes. It's from the '80s.
Mhm.
It is high time for Rick Moranisville. But I
Rick
remember
Moranis, yeah.
loving that musical, and I think for some reason it may have been just the style of the songs and everything, and we'll touch on it in that future episode. But that's something that kind of like shaped my future of like overall aesthetic and music style that I just hold close to my heart, and that is like retro doo-wop, googie style kind of stuff, surf rock, like all of that kind of era
Yeah.
is something that I love. I love everything from the visuals to the music, to like the movies and stuff like that that came out around that area.
Are there any
time.
other musicals? I mean, this is the month of musicals. Are there any other musicals that you have enjoyed since then? Like kind of as a result of like
Diving into
breaking
musicals?
your
Yeah.
cherry there a little bit?
Yeah. Rent in 2005,
Hmm.
or 2006, whenever it came out. I think it was 2005.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember watching that one and kind of remembering hearing that it was this big Broadway smash years and years prior to, but I like super dug that one. And yeah, that was like my second kind of like stake in the ground of like, oh man, musicals can be awesome. It doesn't have to be one thing for everybody. Like everybody has their own kind of style and things like
Yeah.
that. So I love both of those. And while it's not wholly like a musical, maybe it is. But like the producers,
Oh yeah.
the
Totally.
remake that they did with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane, I fucking love. And I saw like an off Broadway version of that musical, and it was fucking great.
Mm.
So yeah, that's kind of my rounded version, and now I appreciate most, if not all, musicals for what they are.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very stylized movies, very comedic movies in that way too. And this
Mhm.
movie has a lot of comedy as well.
Yep.
Okay, before we get into anything further, I want to see you attempt a plot description of 2001's Moulin Rouge,
Yep.
and we can do some quick cocktail talk, and then just open it up for free reign discussion.
Yeah. So again, I want to preface that I had only seen the movie the once, and
Uh-huh.
it was in a theater where the music balance versus the audio of dialogue balance was way off.
I don't
So
know how they did that. Do they get two different audio tracks?
I don't know how they did that or how they goofed it. Maybe it was something was misbalanced.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
so many
missed.
details of this movie that are spoken over music, and you could not hear that at all in this
Yeah.
movie.
So I'm gonna try my damnedest to
Okay.
give you a pretty good.
If
plot
it's
description.
just vibes, then just give me vibes. Okay. Let me get this ready then. We'll do 1 minute. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Your time starts now.
The Moulin Rouge takes place in Paris, but in like a seedy underground version of it, where like sex is crazy, and it opens in 1900, but it really takes place in 1899, where Ewan McGregor is a writer and he's a songwriter, and he goes to the Moulin Rouge and he like meets up with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, go to the Moulin Rouge, and maybe they'll like get you we'll get you to write a musical or something like that." But like he meets Satine and they fall in love. She's a hooker with a heart. She's like, "Don't fall in love with me. I bang people for money." And he's like, no, let's fall in love. So then they put on a play, and there's a duke, and he's going to finance the whole theater to turn it into this big thing. And Professor Slughorn is there, and he's having a good time. And the duke tries to steal away Satine, but she has tuberculosis.
10 seconds.
and she dies in the end, and it's really a big bummer during like their whole end performance. And then we shoot back, and he's just writing his story because she told him to write it, and he does.
Wow.
Did I do it?
I think you did it. I mean, I think you did the movie better justice than the movie trailer that we saw.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a key element of this movie that is covered in dialogue where there's like an initial miscommunication that happens that causes Satine and Christian to meet up. She thinks he's the Duke. He tells her that he's a writer. There's like a really fun scene where they're trying to like convince the Duke to then finance the show with the spectacular number.
Yeah.
That went so over my head as a child watching this.
Well, it's not for you as a child.
it took me a while. And then what the movie essentially becomes is a kind of a balance between Christian is writing this play / musical for Satine to star in, and he's using their own life, their own experiences as the subject of the musical. And so it's very much like what is happening on the stage is actually happening behind the scenes as well. They're trying to hide their love from the Duke, who's trying to claim Satine as his own in exchange for financing this theatrical production. And then ultimately what it comes down to is Satine has to choose between love versus like her dreams, but all of that is bulldozed over by the fact that she got consumption.
Yes. Right.
Life will get you in the end.
I know. I missed the whole bit of dialogue, like why they even go to the Moulin Rouge to begin with. I was like, what is motivating them to go there, and what is the goal that he's trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I missed that part, but like I get that I understood that it was like a classic misdirection where she thought he was the Duke and he thought he was just getting a meeting with her to pitch a musical or whatever he was doing.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple throwaway lines at like the very beginning of the film that like if you miss them, it's kind of hard to pick them back up. So he comes to Paris in 1899 to be a part of like the Bohemian Revolution, and be like a pauper, and he wants to write, he wants to make music and stuff. His upstairs neighbors are also in that same vein. I don't know if you notice, but David Wenham is the person who's kind of like their writer who quits. So Faramir from Lord of the Rings, that was him.
Oh, I missed that. Okay,
he's in a couple of Baz Luhrmann movies. And so that guy quits. They recognize Christian's talent. They're trying to write basically like the great American novel, except the thing that defines the Bohemian Revolution. They're trying to take these themes of beauty, truth, freedom, and love, and put them into like a defining piece. And so they hang out at the Moulin Rouge a lot. The people at the Moulin Rouge know this group. And so they're trying to propose it to the Moulin Rouge people to put it on as a production because they know they're trying to be like more of a legit theater house.
Okay. All right. I get it now. And then the Duke was going there to like financier the whole
Duke
thing.
Was more of like the official, I'm going to be the money behind this, but I also want creative involvement. And
I want to bang Satine like exclusively.
I want to own Satine because I have weird issues. Yes.
Issues. Yeah. He is delightfully sleazy.
Oh my God. He's the worst. They picked the best actor for that.
And he chose like the perfect like way to deliver lines that just oozes like sleaze and grease and gross.
Yeah. Some of the best parts are where they're all like singing beautifully and then he tries to chime in with like a note and it's the worst thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, like you're talking about, like the scene where it's the classic bumbling and where Christian is trying to like hide that he was just trying to like seduce Satine, and the Duke comes in and he's like, no, I'm a writer and we're writing a play about sitar player. Yeah, he's just picking shit up off the wall. And I was like, okay, that's what the rest of the movie is. It's going to be one of those classic kind of contained stories of like the gang's putting on a musical essentially. And I was like, okay, that's pretty fun.
Contained in terms of the script, but also contained in terms of like this entire movie pretty much takes place within a building on a city block, right?
Yep. Yep.
They do not go anywhere. It is all in the Moulin Rouge, and just about them trying to put on this production while finding and then hiding love throughout.
Aptly named. Yeah, it's not called like Bohemia, France, or whatever. It is at the Moulin Rouge. So that is what this fucking movie is called.
It's kind of crazy. Bohemia, France was actually the title of this movie through most of production.
Shut up.
It right at the very end. No.
Man. Oh, man. Come on.
Bohemia, comma, France. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. So I want to know more about like the writing of it. Like who's involved with the writing, like all that kind of
So
stuff.
let me look up some stats for you. So this movie was written by Baz Luhrmann in partnership with someone named Craig Pierce. I think there was quite a bit of time and effort that went into this one because obviously we talked about how it was inspired by the vibe and or literal story points of several different genres, several different like historical works. But it actually the hardest part, from what I can tell, is it took them 2.5 years to secure all the song rights. Because obviously there's a million different songs happening in this movie.
Yeah.
And so you got to go get a meeting with David Bowie. You got to go talk to the Queen people. You got to go talk to Dolly Parton. There's so much going on. And so there's individual songs that are just straight up covers. And then there's also kind of the core of this movie, and the thing that a lot of people remember is the scene that's the elephant love medley when they're on top of the elephant. It's kind of after that first confrontation where they're deciding to work together. The Duke is on board. And so they both come together and he's like, so what was that? And she's kind of trying to play it coy, like, oh, I didn't actually fall in love with you during your song riff.
Yeah,
it was all an act. She's like,
I'm just a hooker. Like
I have a heart of stone. Don't make me love you. Don't fall in love with me.
Don't do it. Don't make me love you.
Don't do it. I can't do it. And then he launches into just a mashup after mashup after mashup of why they should love each other.
That was fun to watch and listen to, because there's just like reference after reference after line after line, and I was like, okay, that's good. That's good. That's great. That's good.
So great.
Cool.
And there's actually a note on that song. So they eventually made a Broadway musical of Moulin Rouge in 2018 is when it launched. Great time to launch a Broadway musical. Yeah. And that song in particular was updated with more modern components. So instead of like Whitney Houston, instead of David Bowie and stuff like that, I think there's bits of like Regina Spektor in the new one. There's much more modern songs. So it's kind of a fun thing that you can update to appeal to newer audiences while still maintaining the same vibe of like, why should we fall in love?
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I do appreciate that. The just the sheer amount of hoops that they had to jump through, like you mentioned, is
logistical nightmare. I imagine.
Yeah, like legal had to just be like pulling their hair out the whole time. Like, you want to get this one line, we have to get, like, that's the hang up. Insane. Joe, before we go any further, you mentioned, should we cheers to each other? I see we're both drinking green beverages.
I think we both went the same route. So tell me what you got going here.
Joe, I took a page from your book. Inspiration number 1, Joe Murphy, is going for names of cocktails. This is the Kylie Minogue.
I am so glad you caught on that was Kylie Minogue. Okay.
That was hilarious. So it's green like an absinthe drink, but it an absinthe beverage it is not. This is tequila, Midori, and the key ingredient here, you may not be able to pick it up in the image, but there's some sparkle syrup in here. This is maple syrup with edible glitter that my dad got me for Christmas. It is incredible. So there's some of that in there, and lime juice, and it is delightful. And it's green and sparkly, and it's everything about this movie. And it's the Kylie Minogue.
That is so great. Obviously, I went the exact same route. So this is what I'm calling the Green Fairy.
Yes.
So it is a take on a popular drink that I believe Hemingway used to drink called I think Death in the Afternoon or Death by Afternoon or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
It is champagne mixed with actual absinthe, and with a rim of food colored green sugar around it.
Damn. That's cool. Yeah, we
Yeah.
went to the same area of the movie.
Mhm.
Just this one insane drug trip that they take before they're like, "Hey, let's go to the burlesque strip
Let's take
club.
shots of absinthe.
Let's go trip balls before we go to this big meeting, Christian. Let's go do
I
that."
I almost went with the sparkling diamond, but I was like, oh god, that's gonna have to be like a vodka on ice, like it can't have any color at all. So that would have killed me.
Yep, it was either that or Ryan mentioned that you could do something red because there's a lot of red.
Yeah,
Like that's if you look at one of those websites that takes like a screenshot of every frame and kind of like
hmm
compile it, like there would be so
makes
much
a little
red.
picture of you. It'd be like red and gold and
Yeah,
blacks. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the theme of this movie.
Yep, I love it.
Um,
But yeah, that's cocktail hour.
Very good, Kylie Minogue and the Green Fairy. Okay, so Moulin Rouge. Let's get into a few different areas that I want to cover.
Yeah.
So we talked about how Baz Luhrmann, as a filmmaker, in a lot of his films, focuses on kind of like a snapshot of a time in history, and then music is used in a lot of different areas to bring people who are watching the film into that world and help them connect more with these characters and what they're feeling at the time. I really love how music can kind of be a very specific bridge in that way rather than just like a cool accompaniment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he does it with stuff like Great Gatsby in the 20s. He does it with stuff like Elvis in the 50s and 60s. And then this movie obviously is very specifically focused on a turning point right before the new century, 1899. And so you can really tell how focused it is because it's bookended by these like really dreary scenes of like, this is 1900s Paris and everything sucks and it's wet and everything's gray.
Yep.
And Christian is depressed because everyone's dead.
Little does he
Go
know that
back
World War One is around the
year.
corner.
Go back 1 year and it's like Dorothy coming out of the cottage in Wizard of Oz. Everything's Technicolor. Everyone's having a great time. All the
Yeah.
prostitutes are partying. Like
Yeah.
no one, you know.
No one's dead. It's great. Yeah.
So I really love that. I think the main thing I just have to get into is the songs of this movie because there's so many all killer no filler style songs. Like I could probably rank them.
Okay.
I'm curious to see, like, as a first time viewer, what were kind of the high points with music for you? What surprised you? So we talked about how there was kind of like a novelty of, oh, this is a jukebox musical. These are actual songs. What was your favorite element there versus like
Yeah. So
original songs? Did you like those?
Yeah, so I couldn't tell from the outset that it was going to be a jukebox musical. I got the first inkling when he's like with the I don't know, I'm going to call them I don't know, just the ragamuffin group
The
from
Troop,
upstairs,
Bohemians.
the Bohemian troupe from upstairs. They're trying to go through the lines and everything, and he does the Sound of Music thing. The hills are alive with the sound of music. And I was like, hang on, wait a minute. I recognize that. What's going on here?
That's such a funny scene because like leading up to it, there's the four of them and they're trying to find the lyrics and none of them land on The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music, but they're throwing out stuff like the mountains are vibrating with the cacophonies of sound or something like that. It's like insane, like thesaurus level stuff.
Yeah, so that was the first one that like pricked my ears up. I was like, hang on, what's going on here? And then I already mentioned earlier, so like when it's like, all right, let's do some shots and let's go to the Moulin Rouge and look at all the spectacle that's there. And then that's when you get into the Lady Marmalade. And then when it like smashes into Smells Like Teen Spirit, I was like, oh my God. Okay, so it's going to be one of those where it's like references all over the place, some really old, some fairly modern takes. And so that was like my first kind of like, okay, this is really cool. Another musical number that I loved was one that we talked about. It's the the I don't know what it's called, but it's the one on top of the elephant.
It's
Um,
called the Elephant Love Medley.
Perfect. And it is exactly that. It is a medley of references and songs to kind of get the point across of like, no, we should totally fall in love. Everything's going to be fine. No one's going to die in the end. It's going to be great. Loved that. The visuals were insane. The crazy moon in the background, delightful. I loved the like tango Roxanne.
Ooh, yes.
That was great. And then highlight for me, highlight with a capital H and a capital light was Like a Fucking Virgin.
I am so glad. Okay, like a virgin is always the song that I forget is in this movie, and it always cracks me the hell up whenever it happens.
It brought the house down in the theater. Everyone was loving it.
Because it's like the two guys in the main cast who maybe like can't and shouldn't be singing,
Yep.
going insane with a Madonna cover.
Yeah.
So it's Ziegler trying to convince the villain, the Duke, that Nicole Kidman's character can't sleep with him because she had to go to confession because she's feeling impure.
Yeah. It's such a bonkers, like, left turn way to kind of like steer into. It's like, all right, how do we get this story narrative to get to Like a Virgin? He's like, okay, she's going to have to confess that she's feeling impure and that she's feeling like a virgin. And it's like, but
you imagine them storyboarding this out, and they're literally like they have nails on a board that are like, these are the songs we have to hit. How the hell do we have to connect them? And the Like a Virgin one is so fun because it almost creeps up on you because he's kind of just convincing him, and they're talking, and then you realize he's like,
those are the lyrics to Madonna.
Yeah. Saying the lyrics to Madonna.
So that was such a delight, and then like it just busts into this insane, musical number, dance piece, with the butlers and everybody dancing around and
like little Rockettes thing. Like they're
so
like
great.
doing high kicks and stuff.
So I did not expect that at all, and that was the 100% highlight. Even though the final number and the performance, of the musical that he is writing and all that kind of stuff comes to fruition. I thought it was a weird choice that it was going to be like a Bollywood style, Indian style. Like, sure, I guess maybe, but that one was just all right. But those are my highlights.
It kind of fits into the time period where like, hey, it's 1899. Maybe India is a lot more exotic and unfamiliar than it is these days, and so it would have really drawn a crowd to be like, hey, we're making a musical about India.
Yeah, and I get that.
That's exotic India out there, and it also fits into Baz Luhrmann's style because they're going very maximalist. A lot of stuff happening, a lot
way
of color,
over the top
dancing. Highlights for me. I really love the Your Song bit. It often gets overlooked because it's very similar to the Elephant Love Medley, but it's Ewan McGregor singing Elton John, and that first note that he hits really kind of throws you into the ring of like, oh, shit, Ewan McGregor is going to be belting in this movie. And it also it's him singing, but what I love most is Nicole Kidman's performance in that scene, because beforehand she's doing all the comedy, trying to get him to just fucking have sex with her, right?
So great.
And he is acting so awkward, and she's getting so annoyed by it. And then he starts singing, and immediately there's a tone shift in her face. She's like, what the fuck is happening? And then just throughout a single song, you can see her falling in love with him.
Yep.
Just because he represents so much more than she was expecting from that interaction. I do love the original song. So the big original song for this movie is "Come What May." I listen to that one a lot. There's a couple different versions. So there's kind of like the lower key one that they first sing as like, okay, we're writing this song into this fake theatrical.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the Secret Lover song, and then obviously they implement it into the finale in a much more grander way. And then she dies. But I got to say the highlight for me and the song that I always think of when I think of Moulin Rouge is it's Tango Roxanne.
Yes.
So that's kind of the best use of like, we're not just going to do a cover. It's going to be like our version of this song. Like we're going to do something kind of crazy with it.
Yeah, so
Uh,
like and that's why like I call that one out because it was so cool because that is like a high fever pitch of the dramatic elements moving in place
oh,
of the story. Like that's when like the Duke is like borderline like sexually assaulting her,
so
like back,
much
and then it's cutting back and forth, and it's so the tension is high,
so much of
and
this movie is certain elements of the story telling the story of certain other things that are happening. So obviously you have the overarching story that's Christian's writing this play that is essentially a version of his own love story with Satine.
yep,
But then in that scene, it's kind of a microcosm of their the tangoers, the kind of the second rate prostitute girl who is jealous of Nicole Kidman is doing this crazy tango with all these guys, and her being kind of thrust around juxtaposed with like Nicole being
fighting
somewhat
for her life.
assaulted by
Yeah,
the Duke
the
in that
the
case.
the Duke.
It's a crazy way to visualize that, but it's so visceral in that way, and it puts you right into it.
Yeah, and I loved that device about it, right? And this is just getting a little bit of ahead before we get to the game. So as you guys our listeners have glommed onto, we love to do the most with this podcast. We do insane games at the end, and we've started recently with introducing like insane little musical ditties and interludes just before that. And I handle those. Joe comes up with the insane game styles for most of these episodes. Um, so I took inspiration from that scene in particular, the Roxanne, because it is such a transformation of that song. Because at first, like he starts to like being that gravelly sound, the Argentinian, it's just like that rah, and you're like, what is he saying? And then he says Roxanne, and you're like, oh, it's like a tango version of Roxanne. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I took high inspiration from that, as well as again I mentioned it's the Smells Like Teen Spirit mashup with Lady Marmalade at the beginning, and it's kind of just like that marchy kind of tone to it. And you'll hear it later.
I can't wait to listen to it and see it. Like listeners, if you're listening on like a podcast app or Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that, take a gander at the YouTube one of these days, because Justin creates original songs and videos for these little game interludes that we have that are slowly but surely becoming kind of these amazing little pieces of this podcast that we are producing original content. We're going to have an album out by the end of the year.
Oh my God, yeah, we should totally take a page out of our friend Matt Hobbs at Puppy Songs
Shout out
and
to
make
Puppy Songs.
yeah doing a little Spotify best of collaboration kind of thing. Yeah, we'll do that. But yeah,
Here's
those those were great.
I can't wait to get into the game, so we'll get into that in a second. The other thing I wanted to talk about was kind of talking about Roxanne, talking
Mhm.
about this version of this song and this soundtrack in general, the ripple effect that it has on culture, which I am so very surprised that you never heard any of these songs from Moulin Rouge before.
Yeah.
Um, I gave you a little bit of homework, and I'm wondering if you completed it. There was a moment, and I told you in the last episode that we recorded that I was going to bring up the 2018 Winter Olympics
Yes.
on this podcast, because there's a moment where in the ice dancing competition, this couple from Canada named Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer basically blew the competition out of the water with a performance to this song. So it was the tango Roxanne that eventually melded into the, I guess, kind of their slowed down version of Come What May, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of became a little bit more romantic at the end. Did you check it out?
I didn't.
Justin?
I know.
Okay, well that's viewers, we're gonna post notes on that on the Instagram later. We'll get Justin's reaction.
We'll do a little mini kind of episode about my reaction to that. I had 100 things going on, Joe.
Justin
I have a
has
1-year-old
baby, but that's no excuse. Okay, if you're a fan of ice dancing, ice skating, or just like athleticism in any way, and you like shipping people who definitely are married to other people, check
That's
out
worth it.
check out that performance on YouTube, because it's kind of a highlight in my life right now. I've watched it like 20 times in the last week.
That's so cool. I love that.
Okay,
One
well,
one other thing I wanted to touch on that I got the feeling about this movie halfway through. So it is ultimately it's the hooker with a heart. You know, it's like a brothely, burlesque kind of seedy underworld kind of thing, kind of taking place. And it reminded me of this other piece of media that I love. So it is from this band called the Deer Hunter, Dear. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. So the band is fronted by this guy named Casey Crescenzo. He was in like emo, pop, post-hardcore bands in the 90s and early 2000s, and then branched off to do his own kind of singer-songwriting thing. He started along this epic journey to write this like 6 to 7, 8 album epic of this story about the deer hunter. It's about like a central character going through his thing. And it takes place at the turn of the century where he grows up in like this weird kind of like small isolated town to his mother who used to work at a brothel, and he grows up and he goes to war and he ends up at the brothel and he meets this one young lady who, you know, steals his heart, and then he goes off to war and all this weird stuff. But that's exactly where I kind of placed this story as like a touch point, because those albums are insanely like over the top theatrical kind of sounding performances. Casey writes these insane overtures and intricate pieces and stuff like that, and tells a really neat narrative by way of music. So we should also do a follow-up and kind of like do like a quick listen to most of those albums of like, hey, this is a highlight from the story, point A, point B, and this is kind of like where it reminds me where I got the drawing point from Moulin Rouge.
We have so many like smaller special episodes that we'll need to fit into our main like mini series schedule, just because we keep on getting ideas for things as we're recording. But that sounds awesome. That sounds like something that could so easily be transferred into a musical, like a visual medium, because the story is already there.
Yeah, and like it's at a unique point in time too. So like it starts at like, imagine like if you could get the backstory of Christian, you know, like where he grew up, and maybe his mom grew up in a similar kind of area, and then he goes to the Moulin Rouge, and then like what happens afterwards? And then we all know what happens in the early 1900s, you know, World War I starts, like I joked about earlier, but like he obviously goes to war, and like what happens with that? Does he meet someone along the way who knew about Satine? You know,
are we talking about like the need for a Moulin Rouge sequel 10 years later, a la T2 Trainspotting?
Yeah, that would be great.
Wow.
I would love that. I would love nothing more.
Let's workshop this. We'll post it to the gram. People keep an eye out.
Yeah, we'll send an email to Baz Luhrmann himself. Is he still with us? He's still with us.
Oh yeah, he just made Elvis. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Hashtag Moulin Rouge 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
The Rouge is back. Follow it. I can't help but feel that there is so much about this movie that we haven't covered, just because there's so much in this movie. But to keep it a little tight, I am glad that we covered some of our favorite musical moments, because that does tend to be the highlight for me.
And that's what it's about. That's the theme of the month. That's the theme of the movie. It's a musical, and it tells a really neat story with neat devices, and covers a whole lot of stuff.
It's ultimately about like how universal music can be. It can apply to stories from now or from 100 years ago, and it's really just about how it makes you feel, and how it makes you feel can transport you back to how people back then might have felt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also tells you that like you don't need money to have love. You don't need that kind of thing. And I'm drawing parallels to like The Wedding Singer.
But it sure helps. Anyway.
Like this, like Christian Ewan McGregor is Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer, the penniless songwriter kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, and I think his arc is interesting in this film, even though Nicole Kidman might be the more interesting character in this case. Christian's arguably like the main one who's narrating the film, and he starts out with these very idealistic but maybe a little simple ideas of love, right? And he obviously goes through a lot, and he develops this like intense, heartbreaking moments, but he ultimately comes out with a better understanding of love in that
Yeah,
way,
because at the
which I'm
beginning he
sure will
says,
be explored in the sequel.
yeah, it definitely will. Like, shocker, he's pregnant with her baby?
Moulin Rouge, guess who's talking?
Because like at the beginning he says, like, love, I've never been in love. So he has this weird idealized version of it, which he eventually does find, this unrequited love. It has nothing to do with social status or success or anything like that. And it is the great unifier. But it's also told by way of music, like you said. It is the connecting piece.
He's kind of a little nice boy. She's kind of a manic pixie dream girl, but they're both revealed to have deeper layers to them that disrupt those tropes.
Definitely.
I love.
Definitely.
Justin,
Yes.
let us get into game mode for
my
this
God.
episode on Moulin Rouge. Okay. So this is going to be our second and closing episode of our musical March month.
Yep.
And so I definitely wanted to cover this movie because it's that special type of jukebox musical that I love to watch and listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the game title that I gave you was Jukebox Jungle.
Yep.
And I will explain the rules to you in a bit, but let's show me what you came up with here.
Okay, let me preface by saying that is all you told me. I was like,
Yeah.
Joe, what is the name of the game that's going to come with Moulin Rouge? And you said, I haven't come up with it yet, like the mechanics of it, but it's going to be called, I don't know, something like Jukebox Jungle.
Mhm.
So I took that and I ran with it. And like I said, the inspiration came from the Roxanne tango, as well as the Smells Like Teen Spirit and Lady Marmalade mashup. So I wanted to create something that involved jukebox and jungle, and you'll get a touch of that. And it evolved, and I texted this to you as soon as I wrapped it up today. I was like, Joe, this song is so damn sexy.
I am so prepared. Lay it on me.
Here we go. Yeah.
Justin, goddamn it!
So obviously,
so good.
So the inspiration there that I got, obviously, Jungle Boogie is the jungle, and that's the baseline there. And then I was stuck with, all right, jukebox. What are some songs that have jukebox in it? Ultimately landed on "I Love Rock and Roll" by Joan Jett, and it just kind of turned into like a Nine Inch Nails song, which is fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, so we got to start releasing these covers on our Spotify account.
Yep.
Making money off of them.
Mhm.
That'll be the plan going forward. People keep an eye on the gram because we'll release all the information there.
Yes.
Okay. Let me explain to you the rules of Jukebox Jungle. I will start off by saying there is no way to lose this game. It's going to be not necessarily point based. It's going to be more of like a build your own world style, just get creative game. Okay.
I love it. Okay.
So, getting into character. Welcome to the Jukebox Jungle, the game where you can craft your very own jukebox musical.
Ooh.
I will be your guide. I will walk you through the beats of your story, and you get to choose what pre-existing songs out there, pretty famous songs, should be sung to accompany each moment.
I love this.
I'll give you 3 song options each time
Okay.
that I have picked out, but you always have the option to think up your own song as well if
Okay.
you want to add it in.
Okay.
Do you understand the rules?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I've come up with a very basic plot
Mhm.
that we're going to try to build a jukebox musical off of. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So starting out,
Okay.
song number 1. You are a simple peasant boy, can't even read, who longs for a life of adventure outside of this crappy farm that you work on. You sing a song about how much you want to get out and explore the world. Is that song I'm Like a Bird by Nelly Furtado? I Want to Break Free by Queen? Or Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson?
It is neither of those songs. This is where my brain immediately went to. So I'm a poor boy, right?
Mhm.
In the on a farm, right? Is that
Uh-huh.
what you said?
You're just
I'm
you're
just
you're the lowest of the low. You sleep with the pigs.
I want to get out, right? I want to get out and see
Uh-huh.
what the world's got to offer. What
Want
am
to
I
break
doing
out
in
of
the
this town.
field? I'm sitting in the field, and what do I see? What like I have my hand out because I'm wondering what's going on, and then what floats down on my finger is a butterfly,
Uh-huh.
and he flies away, and then I break into butterfly in the sky.
Oh my god.
I can go twice as high but I also can't read, so I want to learn. I want to learn to read too. So like, take a look. It's in a book, and
Justin,
then it's a rainbow.
our minds are so similar. I love that you chose the fourth option right off the bat, and I love that you went with reading Rainbow of all.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, really setting the scene. Let's get into song number 2. The
Great.
plot has developed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You break out of that podunk town and immediately run into the love of your life. But she doesn't notice you and she hates music. What song do you sing to woo her? Is it a gender bent version of Love Story by Taylor Swift? Have a Little Faith in Me by John Hyatt? Or You Make Loving Fun by Fleetwood Mac?
Um. So again, I'm going to go with neither of those three.
Oh my God, bring it on.
So, so I'm a little jaded that she fucking hates music, and I'm still kind of like immature because I'm only still from that podunk town. I'm not quite as polished as I need to be. So
You
like
can't read yet.
at the end of this song, like I change my ways. I become a little bit more grown up or whatever. But I take the brashy way, and I sing "Puddle of Muds." She fucking hates me.
Is it same tempo? Is it slowed down, sped up? Because you also have those options as well.
Yeah,
Going
it's a
for
little bit it's a little
version.
bit sped up.
Mhm.
But at the end it kind of like goes back to like halftime, and then it's like, "Oh, she fucking hates me."
I
You
love
know?
it.
And
It's like
then it's like,
partly
"Oh,
spoken at the end as well.
yeah, it's like it's my fault. I need to change." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 Well, that doesn't vibe at all with where I'm going, but we'll keep going forward anyway. Song number 3. The Love of Your Life has been won over by She Fucking Hates Me. And developed a taste for music as well.
Love it.
But her family doesn't approve of you. It's the villain song moment. They sing her a group song to explain that you're no good and that she should leave you. Is that song a slow, menacing cover of Promiscuous by Nelly Furtado and Timbaland? Is it a slow, menacing cover of No Scrubs by TLC? Or is it a gender bent version of Girlfriend called Boyfriend by Avril Lavigne? So they're singing I Don't Like Your Boyfriend.
Hey, no way. um I like option B for this one.
You like
No
No Scrubs by
Scrubs.
TLC?
Yeah, they're like harassing me singing.
They're like
Yeah.
cornering her and like singing all around her, and she's like, no.
Yeah, and they're like pointing at me like no scrubs. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm just a scrub. Oh man.
I love it. We're calling Broadway right after this. All right, great. Proceeding forward. Song number 4, Your Love's Family convinces her with No Scrubs that you're not good enough for her, and she dumps you.
Oh no.
Bet you didn't see that happening.
I
In
did.
response, you resolve to show them that you're worthy by learning to read. What is the motivational montage song that you and your friends sing for months while you learn to read? Is it a broy version of ABC by the Jackson 5? a broy version of American Idiot by Green Day, or Eye of the Tiger by Survivor?
My brain immediately went to Jackson 5, so it's the broy version of ABC.
It's very Grease Lightning. They're
Yeah.
like dancing around you while it's like the months are passing by and you're just turning pages of books while sweating. Oh, amazing.
Like, on page 1, like over here is like the letter A, and I try to draw it, and it's like a Z, and like I can't get it, and I rip the page and throw it, and then there's like a big pile of pages behind me.
Oh my God. This is fantastic. Okay.
This is great.
Okay. Skipping ahead. Song 5. This is the finale. Are you ready?
Yes.
Armed with your new reading skills after singing ABC with your bros, you now have a choice of how to proceed. There's 3 potential endings to this musical. Do you try and win back the love of your life? Do you decide that she wasn't actually that great and go off to explore the world? Or do you go back to your farm because you realize maybe it wasn't that bad after all? Either way, the entire town and everyone you've met along the way will be joining in and singing backup. So, your choices are 3 different medleys. Is it a mashup of Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer, This Kiss by Faith Hill, and Kiss from a Rose by Seal? That's number 1. Number 2, a mashup of On Top of the World by Imagine Dragons, About Damn Time by Lizzo, and a solo version of Breaking Free from High School Musical. That's number 2. And then number 3 is a mashup of Home by Philip Phillips, Right Back Where We Started From by Maxine Nightingale, and This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie.
It's option 3. I'm going home, baby.
You're going back to the farm.
Back to the farm. Back to where I started.
The last note of the musical is This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie, held by the entire crowd.
Yes, and everyone is tears loving it. They're throwing EGOTs at us or whatever you throw it at
It's
people.
very much a circular narrative. You pick up the hoe again, but you really learned a lot on your journey, and that's all that matters.
Yep, I pick it back up and I go, this old thing. And then I go back to it, and then the lights just fade and the curtains.
There were no points involved in Jukebox Jungle, God, but you got an A+.
Damn right I did. Thank you for A+ for effort.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. That was that was amazing. Joe, you did the damn thing.
I think the past couple episodes we've had have really shown just how different our musical tastes are. So it's been really hard to come up with these games.
Yeah.
But I'm happy we're doing it.
I'm excited also, but also like past excited because we'll have already done the episode, but maybe not yet.
You're retroactively excited?
Yes, for the Little Shop of Horrors game that we're going to play.
I can't wait.
Yep.
Final thoughts on 2001's Moulin Rouge?
It was a delight, and I cannot overstate enough how much I love that Wussy Events put this on, Wussy Magazine in Atlanta put this on, because it really made it special. And it wasn't just we were watching it at home, you know, which still would have been cool. Still would have had a lot of the same conversation and stuff, but it made a unique memory, a unique piece in my mind that I'm going to remember forever because that was so cool and so much fun.
I think if we had one episode where we had to dress up and go see a drag show before we saw the movie, it has to be this.
It is this one, 100%.
This was meant to be.
Yep, it was.
And I'm really glad I got to experience that with you.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what it's all about. That's why we do this podcast.
Congratulations on our first banked episode. This is technically episode 13, I think.
13, yeah. 14 actually. 14.
Oh wow, 14.
Yeah.
Look at us.
I know. Just banking episodes like no big deal. If anything weird happens, we'll let you guys know before we post this episode, like in the next month.
Yeah,
but should be fine.
This may get completely fucked in how we do this. So, Justin, typically at the end of a miniseries, we kind of preview the next miniseries. So this is the end of our March miniseries. We've done Little Shop of Horrors. We've done Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what's coming up in April.
All right. So in April, even though March is the time of the year when the Oscars take place, Musical March was just too good of an alliteration to pass up.
Yeah.
So in April, we're going to do like Oscar buzz movies, big Oscar buzz movies that big Oscar sweetheart movies that neither one of us had seen. So first out the gate is going to be my movie, and Joe has never seen The Social Network, the story about Facebook.
The biggest like film school movie of all time, and I'm so excited.
That movie to me fucking rules. The soundtrack again like rips. It's
Can I get a Trent Reznor?
It's Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross joint, and bringing it back around to Nine Inch Nails. So yeah, that's what April's going to bring is Oscar buzz. I'll tease out a couple more themes if you want, Joe. In May, we're going to do Muppet Mayhem.
I'm so excited for that too.
Buckle the fuck up. We're going to be talking Jim Henson's Muppets all across these movies. I'm not going to tell you what movies yet, but we're doing that. And then in June and July, we're going to do like favorite movies, blockbuster, theater experience kind of thing. So like the stuff you
really
think
going to be a summer mini series. We're going to get into big movies, big money, big budgets, big effects.
It's going to be a summer to remember.
It's going to be a summer of love, ultimately.
A summer of love and explosions and CGI. But yeah, Joe, I had so much fun with this one. I love that we got to, share a lot of, commonalities with music and just our history with musicals. And this was so much fun.
Awesome, Justin. I will see you in April, which is next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, y'all.